And time now for a look at the day's top business news, starting with what should have been a victory lap for the new piece of tech from Samsung, now turned into a bit of a debacle. That's bringing back some bad memories, and notably, Brian Quinn will help us think of some of those memories. Samsung, it sounded like a great idea. Didn't turn out that way, did it?
Did it, though? Did it really? Anyway,
Would have been nice.
I hate to be the bearer of bad memories here, Will. But Samsung's new Galaxy Fold phone was set to roll out Friday at a major event in China before its launch then in the U.S. Instead, the company is now postponing that launch and recalling all sample models. That after multiple reports of broken screens emerged amid testing by journalists and reviewers. The incidents calling to mind, of course, the disastrous recall of Samsung's Galaxy Note 7 phone, which had an unfortunate tendency to burst into flames. Naomi Lloyd reports.
It's been hailed as the future of smartphones, the Galaxy Fold, a handset that folds out that's both a smartphone and a tablet in one. But just days ahead of its release in the US for an eye-watering $1,980, Samsung has had to postpone the launch after early reviewers reported their screens breaking within days of use. In a statement, Samsung said,
"To fully evaluate this feedback and run further internal tests, we have decided to delay the release of the Galaxy Fold. We plan to announce the release dates in the coming weeks."
They're also retrieving all of the samples sent to reviewers. The firm said initial findings showed the issues could be to do with impact on exposed areas of the hinges. All rather embarrassing for Samsung and brings back uncomfortable memories of its 2016 flagship debacle with the exploding Galaxy Note 7 smartphone. That's thought to have cost the company $5.3 billion after it had to recall around 2.5 million of its Galaxy Note 7 devices over exploding batteries. Samsung lost $26 billion in value in the stock market. The South Korean consumer electronics giant has spent nearly 8 years developing the Galaxy Fold in a race to launch a folding device ahead of Chinese rival Huawei. While laboratory tests may have shown it opening and closing more than 100,000 times without breaking, in the real world, some haven't yet made it past 48 hours.
Well, Samsung shares lost around 0.25% in Seoul on that news Tuesday. Asian indexes overall mostly higher. The Nikkei in Tokyo and the Kospi both finishing up just under 0.2% as we see here. Chinese indexes, though, slipping amid reports that Beijing may turn its focus to structural economic reforms rather than strengthening its recent stimulus measures. Here in Europe, shares opening mixed as well. Investors bracing for a glut of earnings reports this week as markets come back from the Easter holiday. London's FTSE 100 up 0.33%. The CAC 40 here in Paris and the Frankfurt DAX both opening just slightly in the red. Over on the commodities markets, crude oil continuing to rise a bit more slowly Tuesday following the U.S. decision to end waivers on sanctions for imports of Iranian oil. Brent crude is up 0.8% to trade at $74.63. WTI up over 0.9%, up above $66 a barrel. Meanwhile, Japan says that U.S. decision to scrap waivers on Iranian oil sanctions should not hit its industry too hard. Japan was one of 5 nations still buying oil from Tehran when Washington's decision was announced Monday. The country had been gradually reducing its reliance on Iranian crude since sanctions went into effect in November, with purchases from Tehran now accounting for just 3% of Japan's total. The chief cabinet secretary says Tokyo is working with Washington to minimize the impact.
We have been closely coordinating with the US from the perspective that Japanese companies should not be negatively impacted by the policy. Following the US government's announcement, we will have a close discussion with the related Japanese companies and will take necessary measures so that Japan's energy supply will not be affected.
And finally, for business, 2019 is proving a banner year for public stock offerings amid the so-called tech unicorns. Those are private venture capital-funded firms worth over $1 billion each. Soon to come, perhaps, unicorn burgers. California plant-based protein startup Beyond Meat is planning its IPO on the NASDAQ, where it hopes to raise just under $184 million. The $19 to $21 share price would value the firm at around $1.2 billion. Like fellow unicorns Lyft and Pinterest, which recently went public, Beyond Meat is not yet profitable, posting a $30 million loss for 2018. But the market is growing. According to a recent survey, some 40% of Americans are moving towards a flexitarian diet amid growing awareness of the environmental and health risks of meat consumption. These are those burgers that apparently bleed when you bite into the plant.
Bleed, and
blood.
flexitarian is mainly vegetarian, occasional meat, is that right?
That's mostly it. Yeah, you move
Are
away.
you a flexitarian?
I am mostly a flexitarian.
Bit of a
Well, I'm not pushing any
flexitarian.
agenda here, but you know.
Brian Quinn, getting his daily source of vegetables and fruit. All right.